Hello, welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host Owen James, the channel that brings you all the latest Rangers news, guys. I'm sure, you know what, it's the January transfer window, and I'll tell you something, I don't really remember a January transfer window so quiet. I don't remember a transfer window with so few links and so few stories and just nothing to kind of report on and talk about. You know, it's mad. It is absolutely crazy. It's actually quite a boring window, to be honest with you. I mean, there's not a lot going on. I mean, look, I've got my phone on all the time. You know, looking at X. I've got X. I've got Fabrizio Romano on alert. So the moment Fabrizio tweets, I'm all over it. I've got, you know, that whole situation covered. I've got the Rangers one on as well. I've got them all, and I keep refreshing it. I keep checking it. And it's very quiet. It's a very quiet month. And I know that often in January, it goes down to the deadline day. I think the window closes on the 3rd of Feb, I think, which is rather bizarre for a January transfer window. You know, you see it's a lot of very kind of small, kind of random stuff at the moment. You know, I'm flicking through now and there's just nothing there in terms of, you know, of actual concrete signings or concrete links and concrete things, you know, even from Fabrizio. And we all know that when Fabrizio tweets, it's kind of more official, isn't it? You know, Fabrizio is like 99% official. He's not the 100% official. That's the club. But when it's Fabrizio, it's pretty official, isn't it? He is the man who seems to be in the know with everything. I mean, I'd hate to be for any sort of relation of Fabrizio. I bet he's dead hard to get hold of on the phone because I imagine he's always on the phone, you know, picking up all the latest. You know, Manchester City have been very busy in England, obviously signing players. They've signed a player called Vitor Reyes today. But the whole Rangers thing, it's gone really quiet. You know, we've got Rafael Fernandez obviously on loan. We've seen Cole McKinnon depart, Robbie Fraser depart, Christian Webster depart. Obviously, as we reported on the video earlier, there's talk of Alex Lowry going to Wycombe Wanderers. That seems to be pretty much on the way and being done and dusted. But other than that, there doesn't appear to be, you know, a lot of outgoings. Now, considering, of course, that we talked a lot about the whole situation around the young players and the fact that those young players that weren't going to get first-team opportunities were going to be sent out on loan. It's interesting that it seems at this present moment in time, no one yet has departed, you know. I think, you know, obvious names that jump out from you are kind of like the likes of Adam Devine, Leon King, players who really have got very little future at the club, I believe. You know, that Leon King, obviously, who couldn't even get in the team when we had a centre-back injury crisis. And Adam Devine, you know, another one who, I mean, let's face it, Adam Devine is an out-and-out right back, but the manager decided he'd rather play a left back at right back. Fair enough, Ridvan did a very good job then. I'm not criticising the manager for that. But you've got to, you know, if you're Adam Devine and his representatives, or you're Leon King and his representatives, you've really got to be sitting down now and saying, look, Leon, look, Adam, you have no future at this club as long as this manager's here. Realistically, we need to look for a move away for you. And, you know, that's where we're up to with those two. So I think, you know, there's a good chance that at some point during this month, you know, in the next 10 days, 14 days, however long, or 13 days, however long's left of this transfer window now, we will see a departure of King and of Adam Devine. Now, obviously, the other one that everyone is expecting to move out is, of course, Alex Lowry as well. He's expected to leave to go to Wycombe Wanderers. Now, we do know that Rangers do need to cut back on the wages, cut back on the squad. That was made very, very clear pre-transfer window that there is still a need to cut wages. The wage budget is still way too high. And I'll be honest with you, I think if you look at the wage budget and you look at how much we're spending on players, and you look at the quality of the players we have in the squad, you can kind of agree with that to some extent, that we are paying way too much for not very much. You know, we're paying a lot of money for some very poor footballers. You know, we're paying wages, high wages to people like Robbie Matondo, to Kieran Dowd, both of whom they've been told they can leave. I mean, the worrying thing, and I think, you know, is that there is literally nothing about those two at the moment. You know, there is absolutely nothing out there, that no one seems to be interested at this moment in time. But I'll be honest with you, can you blame anyone? Matondo is a player who is constantly injured. I think he's missed over 60 games since he joined Rangers. So clubs looking at him and looking at his potential to play are probably sitting there going, well, why the hell would we want him? Why would the hell we want a player who's constantly hurt, constantly injured, and constantly out? So, there is that element to that. Kieran Dowell, another one who realistically has not impressed at all during any of his time at the club. A player who I think, if I asked you to name the best Kieran Dowell moment at Rangers, you would struggle to find one. So, we're at that element now where those players are really in a difficult position. Now, Tom Lawrence is another one. Now, apparently, according to reports I've read this morning, Sheffield United, Burnley and Besiktas are the three names allegedly in the hunt for Tom Lawrence. But, look, I'm going to be open with you and honest with you. As with any of this, you've got to kind of say, well, you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. You've got to kind of take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. You've got to kind of think, it is January, it is silly season. Fans, and I think media do make stuff up. He was linked with that move to Besiktas because of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer link. He has been linked with a move to the Championship. You heard rumours that Derby were interested. They now haven't got any money to buy players. We're now hearing that allegedly Sheffield United and Burnley, who are pushing for promotion to the Premier League, are interested. I mean, how true that is, I don't know. Is Lawrence the sort of player that can push them over the line and get them over the line to the Premier League? I mean, I think Burnley sits second at the moment. Sheffield United sit third, I think, or is it the other way around? I can't remember now. Without looking at the Championship League, I know Leeds are top, but and so fourth and Blackburn, Todd Campbell's Blackburn are fifth. But look, I think the one, understanding that the guy is out of contract in the summer, I'm probably going to look at the situation and say, well, I'll be honest with you, why would we want to spend the money? Why would we want to? So I do think that Lawrence is going to be very hard to move in this window because of the fact that he's free. I mean, like I said, you've got clubs like Sheffield United, clubs like Burnley who are pushing for promotion. That may be a factor that says, well, actually, do you know what? If we go out and get a couple of extra players, even if we have to pay for them, ahead of getting them for nothing, we're speculating to accumulate, because at the end of the day, that in England, if you get promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, even if you were to get relegated the season after, you are still making a shed ton of money. You get promoted, I can't remember what it's worth now, but it's worth 30 to 50, 60 million pounds to get in the Premier League. And then even if you get relegated, you get parachute payments when you come down. So, it's certainly worth the money. So, there could be some truth in those stories. But, players like Tom Lawrence, who are out of contract in the summer, are going to be very hard to move because, clubs are reticent to pay for something they can get for nothing in the summer. Although, last year, I think it was Ross Stewart went from Sunderland to Southampton for 10 million, and the guy's hardly ever played since he was in the final year of his contract. So, I think, again, it's a difficult situation, but I think, if the club can push through a deal for Tom Lawrence, that would do us a favour, because we don't want to be constantly in a position where we are losing players for free in the summer. We've gone through 2 summers now where we have lost, tens of millions of pounds of talent for absolutely nothing. You think back to Alfie, to Ryan Kent, to Helander, to Arfield, to those players leaving. You were losing. I mean, at one point, you probably could have got 15, 20 million for Alfie, 15, 20 million for Kent. You're losing 30, 40 million pounds worth of talent for absolutely nothing. And the summer just gone, Barisic walks for nothing, Lundstrom walks for nothing. These are players that are walking for no money. So, even if we can get a nominal fee for Tom Lawrence, even $500,000 or 250,000 at this point, it would represent good business because of the fact you are going to get zip for them in the summer. So, look, if that's one that could be forced across the line with Sheffield United, with Burnley and allegedly Besiktas all interested in the player, then that would be, I think, extremely positive for the club and something we can definitely look forward to. Look, we've got a Nikola Katic update coming up as well. We'll talk about Katic in a moment. But, on the Cyril Dessers situation, the Dessers situation is, again, another difficult one. If you didn't please check out the video that I released earlier on that one, where Leon Balogun has called out fans for booing Dessers. Personally think Big Leon's wrong on that one. But look, I think, Dessers is another one. He's made it quite clear that he is not happy at playing second fiddle and not being the starting striker. He wants to start. And look, whatever you think about Cyril Dessers, his talent, his ability, or his lack of talent, or his lack of ability, every player, realistically, if they're a real footballer, not just a wage thief or a money grabber, wants to play football. They want to play first team football. They don't want to just sit on the bench and get spelks in their arse, do they? Not that the benches are made of wood anymore. They're them big comfy chairs now, which is very different. They do look really comfy, don't they? I think I'd fall asleep on the bench. But Dessers, obviously, he wants to move. Now, again, the links seem to be coming from Italy. Cagliari, obviously, the top link there. There wasn't Spain. Was it Logroñés in Spain? Again, another club looking at him. So, again, Dessers is another one. But I think there's a couple of things to consider on the whole Dessers situation. The first thing, obviously, is that Danilo is out injured at the moment. How long is he going to be out injured? We're yet to get an update on that. Will the club, if it comes out that Danilo is going to be out for any length of time with that shoulder injury, are the club realistically going to allow Dessers to leave and then have to suddenly madly scrabble around to try and find a centre forward and buy a centre forward? Buying a striker in January is a notoriously expensive business because everybody who is chasing European place or fighting relegation or chasing a title is going to want one, and it automatically overinflates prices. People have talked about Lawrence Shankland, as a possibility there because he's out of contract in the summer. But I genuinely don't believe, you're looking at the kind of age range that Rangers are looking at in terms of signing players in that 23, 24, 25 bracket. Shankland doesn't fit the model of player we're currently going for. He doesn't fit the trading model. He doesn't fit that type of player. He's a player who, is not going to develop. He's not going to get any better. He's not a player who, in 2-3 years' time, you can sell on for a profit. That just isn't going to happen. And with the way the club is at the moment financially, in terms of the debt, in terms of paying off the debt, in terms of getting the transfer model going, which has been spoken about by Thornton, by Stewart, by Clement, by Coppen, by a number of people, there is, I think, a real determination to set it up. Shankland doesn't fit there. And I think had there been a genuine interest in Shankland, then I think January or even the summer, you would have seen a move for him if there'd been a genuine interest. I honestly believe that the only interest in Shankland in terms of him coming to Rangers is coming from fans. I think it is coming from fans because obviously Shankland is a Rangers fan. He's a Rangers man. And that's where the drive is coming from. I genuinely do not believe there is any desire within the club to bring him to the club. I genuinely don't believe that's true. I think, like I said, I think it's all fan-based. So look, I think the Dessers situation very much depends on Danilo fitness. The other one, of course, is, if we sell Dessers, the club has made it clear that they want to make their money back at least on him. So, will Cagliari be willing to pay £4.5 million or 5 million or €4.5 million, whatever it was we paid for him? There's certainly discussion at the moment around Dessers is that Cagliari want it to be a loan with an option to buy. Is that something Rangers are prepared to go for in January? Are they prepared to loan him out with the option to buy, hoping that Dessers goes to Serie A and succeeds this time? I mean, last time he was in Serie A with Cremonese, he was a disaster. Yet we still signed him. I don't know how that one works, but there you go. Obviously, it's not as stats driven as we think it is, or maybe just Rangers recruitment is that shit, or Michael Beale is not a very good scout. Probably the latter. So the Dessers situation, like I say, is clouded by the Danilo injury. It's clouded by the fee that Rangers are looking for. It's clouded by the fact that it seems that Cagliari want a loan with an option to buy. Rangers clearly want to bring in funds. Now, if Rangers have to allow Dessers to leave, they probably want the money there because they will have to go out and sign a replacement striker. We have Hamza Igman. Danilo is unreliable due to injury. Zach Lovelace is an option, but has not played a great deal of first-team football. So I think there'll be a desire to go and get a striker. Now, whether we could get one on loan with an option to buy again, I don't know. So it's a very complicated situation. And January is a notoriously difficult time to sign players. Really, really hard, isn't it? We all know that. It's a seller's market. Prices are overinflated, and it's difficult to get players out of contracts because teams, don't want to lose players in the January transfer window because replacing them, in a month is difficult. Prices are high. Wage demands are high. It's difficult to move players in. So, that's where we're up to with the whole Dessers situation. I mean, look, in a dream ideal world, I would love us to get rid of Dowell, Dessers, Matondo and Lawrence in this window, bring in some money. I mean, you probably get about what, £4.50. No, I mean, look, realistically, what, say 4.5 for Dessers. I mean, the guy has scored goals. So if he did get what, £500,000 for Lawrence, that's 250,000 for useless for Dowell, 5.25, and let's say $1 million for Matondo, that's 6.25. At least it brings in 6.25 plus the freed up wages there. You're probably looking at about 10-11 million pounds, around that, freed up to go and actually invest in the squad, something we do need to do. There are so many positions we need to address, and as I said I've put on previous videos, January is not the time to address those positions, address every position. It's the time to perhaps go and get 1 or 2 players to fill gaps, to help with the rebuild. And we are being told constantly by the pro-Clermont fans and by Clermont and by Cobham, this is a rebuild, that we are in a restructure, that we have to give time to the manager, time to Cobham, time to the absolute load of bollocks. I don't think Clement deserves any time because he isn't the man for the job. And if you honestly believe he is the man to take this club forward, I think you're living in cloud cuckoo land. I really do. But if we are really backing him and we are really giving him the whole rebuild that we've been told we're constantly going through, then we need to bring in at least 1 to 2 players in January. And look, loan players for me are a waste of time. They're an absolute waste of time, because you can't build a squad with loan players. You genuinely can't. You want players who are going to be here for a slightly longer term, that you can kind of do something with, build a squad around, embed into your squad. If you've got loan players, you've always got that concern, especially if you haven't got an obligation to buy, and let's not start on that one, that you've got a situation where you can't rely that player will be here at the end of his contract, at the end of his loan period. Obviously we had that with Abdallah Sima, we had that with Malik Tillman. There's a very strong likelihood that we lose out on Václav Černý at the end of his contract, that he will leave as well. So there's always that worry, isn't there? There's always that concern that you're going to end up losing the player. So again, that's a massive concern. That's a massive concern for me, bringing another loan player. Right, so let's get on to a bit of a Nikola Katic update. Now, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, around Nikola Katic as being a possible centre-half signing for Rangers. There was a lot of talk about, him wanting to come back to the club, about the fact that Rangers needed an experienced centre-half, that needed someone who could hit the ground running from day one, given the injuries to Suter's still not back. Obviously, Balogun can't play 3 games in a week. Robin Propper's not reliable. And Ciala's a kid who's still learning the game. Now, Nikola Katic's manager, his coach, has been talking about him and has branded him as, in his words, I think this is lost in translation to some degree, very picky. Apparently, according to his manager, he is holding out for a move to Rangers. That's what his manager says. Now, how true that is, I don't know. Whether that's his manager trying to force something through, given the fact the club want him to, well, seemingly are willing to let him go because he's made it clear he doesn't want to play anymore for his current club. He's with Zurich at this moment in time. Ricardo Moniz, who is the manager, told the Swiss journalists at Representia, he is very picky. He has one drawback. His time is running out and he doesn't want to train. I think that is completely understandable. It's true that we are not the final destination for many players in Switzerland. I think this is logical. We promised him in the summer that he would have a chance of moving in the winter rather than the following summer. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting that the club are talking, that Zurich are talking about him wanting away, that he wants to leave, that Zurich are talking about Rangers him wanting to go to Rangers. Now, whether that is the club seeing Rangers as needing a centre-half, seeing the fact that they need a solution to their problem and trying to get it out there and start this transfer story off. I mean, this is coming from Rangers Review, so, it's a reasonably reliable source. It's also been said that, there's nothing concrete yet, but we've seen some stories in the media. Of course, Nico would like it a lot if he could return to Rangers. We are currently in negotiations with some clubs, one from England, but if Rangers knock on the door, that would be the priority for Nico. He still has 18 months remaining on his contract in Zurich, but it's meant for him to return to Rangers. He will be there. So it sounds like the club are willing to sell, but obviously have a fee in mind for the player. Now, do Rangers have any money to spend on players? That's the big question. with the fact that we've signed this Rafael Fernandez on loan to the end of the season with an option to buy, it sounds like, they're kind of putting their eggs in one basket in terms of this Fernandez. I can't see us buying 2 centre halves in January. Katic can hold out all he wants, and the club can make stories of all they want about us. Rangers, wanting to go back to Rangers, but it sounds to me, from what the sporting director and the coach at Zurich are saying, that this is very much a one-way process. That this is very much Katic wants to join Rangers. Katic wants to come back to Rangers. There's not a lot of Rangers have talked to us, or Rangers have inquired of us, or Rangers have spoken to us. At no point have Zurich come out and said that Rangers have actually approached Zurich for permission to talk to the player. Again, Katic doesn't really fit the mold. Again, look, personally, I would love to get him back. He's an experienced player. I think he could hit the ground running. I think he's a better player than when he left us. I think, people have criticised and said, well, the reason he was allowed to leave was he wasn't good enough. Well, I don't think that's true. He wasn't great, true. He wasn't brilliant, but he wasn't terrible. Is he better than Robin Proper? Yes, he's better than Robin Proper. So I think there's an element there that if we were interested, bringing him back, I think would make sense. But for me, it doesn't look like this is actually a goer. And look, as much as I hate to sit here and piss on everyone's bonfire, I think there's an awful lot of pissing on bonfires going to go on between now and the 3rd of February. I really do. I think there'll be a lot of bonfires around Rangers and a lot of suggested, links and so on and so forth. Like the Zadelia link, this link, the Katic link, the Cameron link, which seems to have died a death as well. I think a lot of people will, I think there'll be a lot of people get excited over potential moves and really get behind things. But I genuinely believe that Katic if he is going to move, he's not going to come to Rangers, because I genuinely, honestly cannot see us signing Rafael Fernandez and then signing him as well. I don't believe, with the limited amount of funds we clearly have at this point in time, that spending money on 2 centre halves is the priority. I mean, I do believe we do need more than 1 centre half. Because Fernandez, for me, carries a whole set of risks. This is not a lad who can hit the ground running. This is not a lad who can start from day one. This is a lad who's going to need time to settle in. This is a guy who has not played any first-team football in about 2 years. And has been injured as well, which, let's face it, Rangers always sign injured players, don't you? And I'm not saying this is a bad signing. It may turn out, like Inciala seems to be a very good signing. It may in time seem to be a really good signing, and perhaps this is just a player that we're going to have to see as a project, and this is all part of this rebuild strategy that we are currently going through as a club. That could be it. It well could be it. And I think it probably is. And I think, it's unrealistic to think that we've signed this player with the intention that he starts from day one, that he goes into the team from day one, that he hits the ground running from day one. I don't think that happens. I think you're going to, probably see Fernandez on the bench. Maybe you might see him with the odd 10 to 15 minutes here towards sort of mid-February. And then towards the end of February, you might see him if he progresses in towards looking at starting games. But, this is not, I think, a player for the short term. This is a player for the long term. And I think with Inciala moving up to the A team and moving up to playing first team football, I think, Fernandez is very much a case of, are you really going to put Fernandez and Inciala together? Again, I don't see Fernandez as a starter. I just see him as a squad player. And that's, I think, not what we needed at this point in time. I believe we needed leaders. We needed experience. We needed players to come in January who are leaders. Now, that may still happen. We've gone to the 3rd of February, so there is still time for that to happen. I mean, if you ask me for my honest opinion and say, Owen, tell us, is this going to happen? Are we going to sign experienced players? Are we going to sign leaders? I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to tell you absolutely not. I'm going to tell you that it isn't going to happen. That Rangers aren't going to go out and spend money on experienced players, that aren't going to go out and spend money on leaders, because for 2 reasons. One, I don't think we have the cash to be able to go and splash on these players who are very expensive at this point in time. And I think Clement sees the leadership group that he's got has been enough for now. The leadership group that he's got, been Raskin, been Tav, been Butland, been Proper, been Hadji to some degree as well, and Balogun. And do I honestly believe that the quality is there in the leadership group? Well, that's a whole different debate. No, that I don't believe there is enough quality in that leadership group, if I'm being honest with you. I don't feel there is. I think James Tavernier is not a captain. I don't believe that Jack Butland is the best person to be a captain as a goalkeeper. I don't believe, that Robin Propper is a very good captain because he's not a very good player. So I honestly believe we do need leaders, but the manager clearly thinks we don't, I think, or has his hands tied in that he can't perhaps get the leaders that he wants because there isn't the money. We don't know the truth in the matter. I think it's probably the latter. I think it is probably that we don't have the money at this point to go and splash the cash. And it's worrying. It really is concerning unless we raise money through sales. And then you've got the whole situation again where who wants these players? Who's actually going to pay the money for these players? That's a big one. Casemiro update. I promise you a Casemiro update. So Casemiro apparently obviously is doing his rehab from his injury. According to reports in the Netherlands, he's still officially a Rangers player. He's still officially on loan at Rangers from Feyenoord, but obviously cannot play. Now, according to reports coming out of the Van der Kuip Stadium in Rotterdam, Feyenoord are planning on recalling Casemiro to the club and allowing him to do all his rehab there. Now, the reason behind it is because they want to loan out more players, but however, they are at their limit for the number of players they can loan. Now, I wasn't aware there was a limit. I didn't genuinely know you could have a limit on how many players you could lend out. Perhaps different leagues have different sets of rules. But, look at Chelsea. I think they've loaned pretty much a whole squad out. But they're at their limit, apparently. So they need to recall players to be able to send other players out on loan. Now, Casemiro apparently is the obvious candidate because obviously he's not playing. He's injured. Bring him back to the club. He does his rehab there. Then they can look at perhaps, sending him out, selling him in the summer. But at least they can send one of those younger players out on loan. So it looks like Casemiro may well be recalled from loan. And look, Cass is a good footballer, but realistically, is he going to play again this season? Probably not. Even if he's back February, it's going to take him most of March to get his fitness back. It's going to take him obviously most of April to get his match sharpness back. And then you're into sort of May, June time, the season's over. So I think with the bringing in of Rafael Fernandez on loan, with the fact we've got Nsiala now brought up to the team, yes, he can play right back, but I think Sterling are obviously settled there. Ridvan can play there. I don't see them having a role. So he would be. He is a loss, don't get me wrong, because he's a good footballer. But is he a massive loss? Probably not at this point in time. So it does look like he will be recalled to the club, which is obviously it is disappointing. It is disappointing, if I'm being honest with you. He's a good footballer. I like Casemiro. I thought he did really, really well when he was here. And I'm really sad that he got injured, but he didn't. At least he didn't get injured for Rangers. At least it was for Holland. Although you've got to feel that having that Rangers next to your name on a squad list does kind of curse you a little bit, doesn't it? It's the curse, isn't it? It's like the voodoo doll. Brings it down. Look, it's I think what it is, guys, it's a little bit frustrating, isn't it? And I think perhaps we're wrong to be frustrated by this whole situation because realistically, were we going to splash cash? Were we going to sign players? Look, it could still happen. It could still happen if the window doesn't close to the 3rd of Feb, which I believe it is. It could still happen. If I'm being honest with you, and I always am, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we're going to spend a fortune. I don't think we're going to buy multiple players. I just don't see it happening. January, like I said, is a seller's market. It's an expensive market. It's like shopping in Waitrose or Fortnum & Masons or Harrods. You don't get value for money. It's not shopping in Aldi and Lidl, is it? It's or any other cheap supermarket or Asda or whoever. It is like shopping in those top level stores and Marks and Spencers, and you don't get a lot of value for money there. You get a very expensive price. And again, signing anybody at this point in time is expensive. Do Rangers have Marks and Spencers, Waitrose, Fortnum & Masons and Harrods money? No, they don't. No, we don't. We have Aldi Lidl money. I think that's what we have, or even Home Bargains. But we certainly don't have, I don't think, Waitrose money to spend on players. Look, like I said, it is very frustrating. Like I said, I sit here and I've got Fabrizio on alert for signings. But nothing seems to be happening. Again, one other thing that came up on the wires today on the Fabrizio as well. Again, with Fabrizio Romano, Mr. Transfer himself, was the situation with Damian Garcia. Now, I don't know if you remember Damian Garcia, the young Uruguayan defensive midfielder that we were allegedly very interested in the summer. Now, Niels Koppen apparently met with the sporting director of Penarol at a transfer summit in Cancun. Like I said, why is it always somewhere like Cancun? Why is it never in Saltcoats or Coat Bridge or Clydebank? But, nothing against those three places if you live there. I do apologise. But, apparently there was interest there, but he decided to stay at Penarol, sign a new deal. Now, according to reports and according to the club, to Penarol, who are currently saying this as well, Garcia looks like he will be on the move in January. He apparently is going to be going to Al-Shabaab in Saudi for £4 million, and obviously a substantial salary as well. Which is sad, really, because I would have liked Garcia. I think he would have been a fantastic player for Rangers. He's Uruguayan, he's tough, he's hard tackling. He looks like the perfect archetypal six. Now, I know that Raskin is doing a brilliant job there, but you like two players for every position, and I certainly don't think that Garcia would have not added to our squad and improved the quality in the squad. And you kind of got to, look, I get why people go to Saudi. It's the money. It's the money. You go out there for 2 years, you're made for life. Personally, I wouldn't go there because I wouldn't take the money. It's blood money. I don't. Their human rights record is shocking. Their respect for different genders, for women, is disgusting. So personally, I wouldn't go there. But at the end of the day, you've got to kind of question why. Why is he going? Why is he going there at such a young age? It's, for me, yes, money, I get it. But if you've got ambition in the game to succeed, surely coming to Europe and playing in the Champions League and playing at the highest level is what you should be doing at that age. So you've got to kind of question that move a little bit. For me, or maybe there's no clubs in Europe interested in it. Maybe he's not that good. I don't know. But it's a bit of a strange one for me. It really is a bit of a strange one. Really is a very, 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 very strange deal indeed that Damian Garcia could be going to Al-Shabaab in Saudi. Look, it's what it is. It is what it is. I don't think Rangers can afford £4 million at the moment. I think we can afford £4 at the moment, if I'm being honest with you. It's worrying times, guys. Look, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Get your comments in. Please let me know. What do you think of this January transfer window? Where do you think we're at? What's going on? Like I said, I get that it's a very hard time to buy players. I get that January is the worst time to buy players. But if we are so called in this, as we've been told by the Pro Clermont crowd and by the club, that we're in a rebuild and we've got to give him time and we've got to let him get his players in. Well, if we come out of this January transfer window with just Rafael Fernandez, that is a shit window. That is an awful window. And the fact that McKinnon's gone, Fraser's gone, Webster's gone. No, Webster didn't play, but McKinnon and Fraser certainly had a part to play in the squad. If as well we see other players move on, I get that the wage bill has to come down, but by that same token, if we're actually weakening the squad and reducing the squad and not, supplementing them or building it up again, and we're coming out of the squad weaker, the window weaker than we went into it, I can't see that as a positive. You've got to kind of question the direction the club's going in. You've got to question the strategy as well. So, look, it is what it is, but who knows what's going on? It's just such a tricky one, guys. It's such a tricky one. Anyway, thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. This has been your transfer update, your January transfer, or your lack of January transfer update. Jack shit happening. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, on the way out, please smash the like, sub, share, comment, become a member for 99p, drop a super thanks, anything you want. Thanks for watching. We are the people.